Hey Liad, how are you?
Hi. Thank you so much. I'm in Tel Aviv right now. It's a beautiful weather outside, beautiful morning. I've been following the conference for almost, I think, 17 hours now, which is
Oh,
amazing.
wow,
Yeah.
great. So
How are
I
you?
believe, yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for asking, and hope you are at your good health and your family too are on in the good health in this situation.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah. So especially in India, it's afternoon and it's hot weather over here. So to let you know and all the audience over here. So yeah, I would like to give a small intro about the Liad, and then he can take it away from there. And yeah, so he's welcome everyone. He's Liad. He's a front end architect at Duda, and what he says about himself is. He's a dev enthusiast for over a decade. So yeah, that's really more than 10 years. That's nice. And he keeps juggling with the React, Webpack, and the buzzword at the latest. Oh, that's really nice, at the latest, which we generally use in our npm while installing. That's really nice. And yes, just for our audience, this speak would be based on the case studies which Liad would be talking about. So yeah, Liad, you are having a 40 minutes of time, and you can take the stage to you, and you can briefly introduce about yourself, and then yeah, the ball is in your court now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So yeah, like mentioned, I'm the front-end architect in Duda, and I'm going to talk actually about something very nice that I ran into in the I think 6 months ago. I'll just add the presentation. Yeah, so my talk is called A Weekend Adventure, and it's actually nice. It's about how to build side projects in a weekend. So I think that like I said, I introduced myself. I'm the client architect at Duda. The subtitle of my talk is "If you build it, they will come," and it may sound like a weird subtitle, but you'll understand shortly what I'm talking about. So let's say you're sitting at home and you're trying to think what you want to do with the spare time that you have. Maybe some of us has some more time right now, or they have some more time to learn new things or to do new things. And you sit home and you probably watch Netflix because that's how we spend your time. And then you think to yourself, do I want to build something? Do I want to build a side project? Do I want to write something new? And you usually you ask yourself why? Why do I want to do that? And because we have a lot of free time right now, so you can say, okay, I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to maybe learn some AI, or I have a course how to improve yourself. Maybe I'll build some, I don't know, some nice education app that can connect people remotely. For example, it's something that I guess a lot of people think about dabbling with. And when you start to think about it, you say, no, I want to build a game. I have free time. I have a free weekend. I want to build a game. Well, it won't be as complex as this game. Let's see how we can build a game, something like Splendor. So Splendor is a game. Whoever doesn't know Splendor, it's a card game. It's a game where you buy and sell gems, little gems, using cards. And it's a very adequate game if you want to start to develop some sort of a side project and learn new technologies while doing it. Because it's a simple game and it's easy to translate to code. And it's very fun to play a lot of people together. So if you want to build some sort of an application or a game that connects people remotely, Splendor is a nice opportunity. We don't need to know the rules for this presentation. You just need to know that there are some cards, some tokens that represent the game, and we play with them. And there are some, it's called noble ties that we'll add to the game later. So Splendor is very popular. It even has like a Marvel edition to that, special edition. Okay, so this is the game. And let's say we want to our game, our screen to look like that. So we want to have the cards in the middle. We want to have the tokens in the right. We want to have the nobles on top. And let's say we want to add some sort of a chat, maybe. Because if we want to play to build an application that people can play with each other, we also want them to be able to communicate. and we want to add some sort of a video chat because you want to communicate not only textually but also video. So you want to add the video of your friends and another video of some other friends you have, and maybe some older friend that you have. And you want to build, I mean, this is the layout, this is what the vision that we have in our head. So you say, okay, how do I start a React side project? So you look online, you go online, you say, how do I start a React side project? And then you get all sorts of tutorials and guidelines and how to start a side project. But you have something very, very concrete in your head. So you read it, and some of the tutorials are very good, but some of them are just, okay, just try to create React app, my app, cd my app, and npm start, and that's it. That's all they give you. And you have, if you look online, you see like all sorts of advices like follow your passion and learn as you go. And it's basically like that. It's how to draw an owl. Just draw 2 circles and then draw the rest of the owl. So it's not very helpful if you want to build something very complex. So you're going to your IDE and you say, okay, I want to start building something, but you're familiar with the blank canvas situation where you have an empty IDE and you don't know what to do, you don't know how to start. You have when you start your server, you have like an empty page, and your mind is blanking, and you're saying, how do I get from this empty page to what I envisioned, to what I wanted, to the side project that I had a weekend to work on, but now I don't know what to do? So you just give up. So you just like close your computer and say, okay, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore, and you're going back to watching Netflix. So don't despair, because in this talk I'll show you some tools, sorry, some tools, some technologies that can help you build it very fast. Okay, so this talk is called useSideProject, and it's going to be fun. Let's dive into it. So we said that we want to build Splendor, right? So we have something in mind, we have this thing in mind, and we want we want it to be like the best application that we build, but we want to build it quickly. Yeah, because we want to try new technologies and we want to iterate quickly as we go. We want to build it quickly. So the first thing you need to do is planning. And in order to plan, we have a very nice tool called Excalidraw. So excalidraw.com, it's like a blank canvas where you can draw rectangles, you can move them around. It's really easy. There are a lot of similar tools, but Excalidraw is nice because it also allows you to share. So let's say we have in mind, okay, we want to have the game area, right? We want to have this block of game area. Then we have the player hand, so the cards that are in the player's hand, and then we have a chat, the textual chat, and then we have like some sort of a video chat for all the players. So this is the layout that we have in mind. We draw it in Excalidraw, and immediately it organizes our thoughts. So if you see, we have the layout and what we have in mind are similar, identical, right? So we have the visual in our mind, and we have the layout, and it's identical. What do we do now? It's really easy. We take our Visual Studio Code and let there be light. We'll use React, and we'll use Create React App, like all of you probably know. Create React App Splendor already creates for us everything we need to start with React. And when we go to our server, this is what we see, right? We see this like a React logo, and it's spinning, and it's really nice. What do we do? We do from here. It's really easy. We just need, let's put our background first. So we take the root element, we put some sort of a background. Bam! Now we have a nice background of a table, and we're like 90% ready. So we have it. We have our mind already started. So our mind had something to hang into and say, okay, I have this background, and then now we take the layout and we start to divide it in our head, and we will use CSS grid. Right, so we need to like visualize it on our background, and we'll use grid. We say our main display is grid, and we'll divide it into columns, and the columns should be like what we imagined. We divide it into rows, and then we define areas, which is it's a cool feature of CSS grid. You can just say, okay, I want, like if you look at the template areas, it visualizes what we want to do in the game. So it's I would say, I have the game in the leftmost column, then I have hand in the topmost row, and then I have players in chat. And what that allows us to do is now we can define just divs and give each of them a grid area. And our markup would look like that. Our DOM would look like that, just like 5 components. Each of them would get an area, and this already puts our components on the board, and this already organizes our look at it. Okay, so we have the game table has a grid area of game, player hand has a grid area of hand, etc., etc. And this is super easy. This is like 1 minute to set up, and now you already have your containers in place. Okay, so now comes I don't know if it's not the hard part, but it's the specific part for every project. You need to design it. You need to have the assets. You need to build your graphics, and that's something that's out of the scope of this lecture, but it's already very specific to every project. So you need to put, invest some hours in that, and then put your assets. Right, so you have the cards and you have the player hand, and that's images that you need to get. But let's dive a little bit into the cards. So we have the board, and our board, as you can see, it's divided to nobles, which is the topmost area. We have the cards in the middle, and we have the chiefs in the bottom. And that's really easy because we all know React. It's not hard to get data and just map it into view, right? So we have the board, we have the nobles on top, we have the cards, and we have the chips. And this is the cards, and this is one card. So one card just maps the data into view. So again, this is really easy, mapping data into view. That's something that you don't need special tool for that. And then we can add the video chat. So let's talk a little bit about interactivity. So we have the board and we have the card, right? So the board contains everything, and then we have the card. And the board gets the data, nobles, card array, chips, and the card gets the data. But where does it get it from? Where does the data come from? So we need to have some sort of a place to store our data. We will use Firebase. So there are several services for that. I really recommend Firebase. Firebase is very easy to start with. It's very intuitive, and we will see that it also provides us the real-time functionality that we will need. Okay, so Firebase, the main value that it gives is that it can sync between different clients. So you save something in Firebase store or the real-time database, and it automatically syncs to all of the clients that are connected. And we will see in a second how we take advantage of this. There are a lot of services that Firebase provides. You're welcome to take a look at it. It provides storage and it provides authentication, but we will use the database. Okay, how do we start something in Firebase? It's really easy. You go to the console, you just click Create Database. After you creating an app, you click in Create Database, and we'll call our database board game. And let's add it to our app. It's super easy. You go to the Firebase console, you define your app, and then once you register it, you just get a chunk of code, and that code you need to plug into your app. Right, and so your code has the API key and the database URL and app ID and everything. You just take it as is. You can put it in your app. You first have to install Firebase. So we'll install the Firebase toolkit, and then we just put it inside our app. We'll put a file that's called Firebase storage that will handle all of our Firebase functionality. And yeah, and basically we'll put it into our app. Again, that's super easy. And once you have it, you can just init Firebase in your main app, main component use effect. You just init Firebase, and voila, now your app is connected to a database, to a serverless database, and is real time. And that's super cool. Again, that will take you about 10 minutes to set up. So after these phases, you already have your view, and your view is using some sort of maybe mock data, but your app is already connected to Firebase. So we will see how we can take advantage of this in order to sync between devices. Okay, Firebase has a great documentation. We're not going to go deep into the documentation, but I am going to skim over the API just so we see how easy it is to use it. So for writing data, the API is really easy. You just take the reference to the database. So you say firebase.database.ref, and then you give the reference for whatever you want to change. So in Firebase, everything is saved in a JSON format, or it's called a document or object format. So you just take the reference. I want players in this player ID, and I want the picture to be set to something. And that's super easy. And for reading data, you just do the same. You say, okay, I take the database, I take the reference, and then I say on value. Why do I do on value and I don't read it synchronously? Because like we said, whenever Firebase is updated, we'll get a push. We'll get a push to our client. So we want to have a callback that will be, whenever that database is updated, the callback will be called. Okay, like we said, we can do a set or we can do on value. Okay, this is a visual and overview on how it looks in the database itself. So if you go to Firebase console, you can see that whenever you take a ref and then set to something, it looks like that. Like I said, it's you can think of it as a JSON format. It's super easy. It's super easy to put values. You can also take the ref and take the child players something. We'll see how it's useful after that. And you can do either set or update, where set is overwriting and update is just updating whatever you need. So those are the same, what we just saw. You can also use timestamp. So if you there's like specific Firebase functions that you can use. One of them is timestamp that would put the current timestamp in the server. So if you want to sync something time-wise, you can put a current timestamp, and it will be the same timestamp for all the clients that are involved. When we do the on value, it's the same. We just take the reference, and I hope that by now you understand how easy it is to work with Firebase, right? You point to some reference, and then you do something. You either set a value, or you're saying on value, I want to have something. And you can see it's very common, so we can write helper function. We can write change value, which just gets the key and new value and either updates or sets it. And we can write the on value that just gets the key and the callback and just does everything under the hood. And so yeah, that's change value, that's on value, and now now our app can just use them freely wherever you need. You say change value to whatever you want. You say on value, and then you get a callback, and that's super easy. Just think how easy it is when you're working with a remote database, for example. It was never that easy to change data, and now you just call change value, on value. And the nice thing about Firebase is that if you pass it a key that doesn't exist, it just creates it. So if you say change value with a key that doesn't exist, it will just create a value create a key inside its own hierarchy, and then puts the value. We'll put the value, and the on value will won't read the callback. So this is change value, this is on value, and you can do it wherever you want in your app. But it can get messy for that reason exactly. Because if your app is calling change value with some keys and the on value with other keys, so you can bloat your database, because Firebase won't throw errors if you reference to keys that doesn't exist. It will just create them. So you need to have some sort of a model, at least in your head. You have to have some sort of a schema. Now I know what you think. There is also a Cloud Firestore with Firebase, which you can define a rigid schema and to work according to it. But since we're doing a weekend project and we want to get everything set up fast, so I think real-time database is like the easiest. It's like the fastest way to set up this database. So let's just define like a mental scheme. So we need to take a look at our application, at what we want to build, and we need to ask ourselves, how do you want to model our JSON, our data? What would be the best way? So right, we have the board, and we have some sort of videos, and we have users. So let's go step by step how we want to build it. So I find it helpful to just save a schema. I work with prop types, like React works with prop types, but I just save a schema, and that's my reference whenever I want to think of what do I need to update in which key. So my schema is divided to table data, which is what's on the table right now, the cards, the chips, everything. And you can see that the cards are an array of cards ID, and the chips are a mapping between a chip color and how many do I have. I'm saving the player hands, so what each player holds. So it's a map of player ID, to whatever the player holds, and I'm using players. I'm defining the players object and the game data and the cards. So the cards are like separate entry in the database. Why? Because I want to work with IDs. I want all of my database to work with card IDs, and I have the object of cards that just maps the card ID to whatever I need to do to render this card. That way it's easiest. If for example, I need to change something with the card image, I don't need to change it entirely in the entire database. I just change it in this object, and everything else is referencing it. Yeah, so that's like a database modeling. Yeah, so this is, like I said, this is cards, and now it's really easy because now you have the schema, and now you have like you can see the database schema. So it's really easy in your card function, in your card component. Let's see what you're doing. You get the card ID, right? First of all, what you need to do is when the component is loaded in the use effect, you just subscribe to whenever this card ID is changing. I want to get the new card data, okay? And you get the cleaner function. So that's what you do. You do the on value like we saw before. Sorry, I'll go back one. And you can see that it's really easy because once you have the card data, you have it in mind. You know that there's an image and points and gem and price. It's really easy to render it. Okay, so you subscribe to it. And the same thing with chips. So you get a chip color, and the same thing. You in the use effect, you just subscribe. Sorry, you just subscribe, and then you can render the chip easily. And the same thing you do if you using the current player, right? So you just subscribe to the current player and maybe get the current player data. So you can easily see that there are code lines here that are repeated in every component that we build. We use effect, we subscribe to something in Firebase, we get the data, we put it in state, and only then we use it in the component, and we do it in every component. It doesn't matter if it's a card, a chip, a current player, it's the same thing. And maybe in current player, we want to do something extra. Maybe we want to also add the function that changes the current player, right? And then you have to use the change value function that we saw before. So this chunk of code that is repeating everywhere, we can just extract it. We can just extract it to a hook, and we'll use a hook that we will write a hook that's called use Firebase. And it's really simple, but it really makes our life easier. So use Firebase just receives a key and maybe some other settings, and it puts the use state that we saw earlier. We put the use state. It puts the use effect that we saw earlier, and it says, okay, when the value arrives for this key, just update the state, and you just return the value of the state. So that is for reading. And it also has, if the value is missing, then you can define like a default value, and it can also returns the status. So if, for example, you're waiting for the value to arrive, then you can say, okay, it's pending, and if it's missing, you can say the status is missing, and if it's found, it's found. And it's easy if you want. It's useful if you want to show in your application like loading or something, or to know if the value is not there, or is it null because it's null, or it's not there. So it's easy. And it also defines the change Firebase. So it uses the change value that we saw earlier, and it wraps everything together, and it just returns the value of the thing. It returns the the function to change the value, and also the status. That's it. That's what the hooks returns. And now it's super easy because we have this all of the lines of code that repeats in every component. We can just shrink them, and we can just use our use Firebase hook, and it's super useful. So you can see that in the card at the top left, I'm using use Firebase with the key, with the path, and I get the card data. Now the card data will probably start empty because it takes time for the value to arrive. But then once it arrives and once it updates, the card data will be updated. The same thing for the chip and for the current player. I'm also reading the current player, but the second argument that I get, the second return value that I get, is the change player function. So I can just call it. I can just rely on use Firebase that will organize everything for me. Okay, so it keeps my data synchronized, and it has the callback function. And now, if you want to add some new feature like the nobles, like the noble ties that we saw, it's again super easy. I'm just calling the use Firebase hooks. I can I just need to remember my schema, so it's in table data / nobles, and then I get the nobles data, and I can do with it whatever I want. And again, I need to just add it to the schema, again, just for myself. So I would remember that that's what's there. Under the table data nobles, there is an array of noble ID, and then I have like a mapping of noble ID to whatever data. Okay, so now you can see how it looks like in real life. You can write custom hooks that use Firebase. So you can see here like use player score, for example, that gets the player ID, and then it does things. And the important thing to remember is that we want to save in Firebase only the minimal amount of data that we need. So everything that we can infer from the data, and everything that can be like computed from the data, we need to do the computation ourselves. The reason that we do it is in order to keep it consistent. We don't want to update in many places in the Firebase store. We just want to update in one. So for example, if I want to calculate the player score, but I'm already saving what the player has in hand, what cards he has, what chips he has, then I don't need to save the score as well, because I can just compute it. I can just calculate it in the client side. So I'm writing like a custom hook, use player score, that reads whatever the player has in hand, does some sort of math on it, reduce, and then returns the score. Okay, so it's important to remember, just save the minimal amount that you need to save in the database. Okay. So yeah, we're actually using it in our project a lot. Use Firebase, and it's really easy. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the chat. So we saw how we can add Firebase to our application and have the data synchronized between everyone who is playing. Now we want to actually build a chat. So a chat, there are a million ways to build, but something that I found useful is React Chat Elements. It's super handy library to build chat. It provides everything that you can think of. Messages and message list and the view and the functionality of replying to a message and the input field. So really, if you don't want to build the UI yourself, which I think most of the time when you don't have to, you don't need to, especially in a weekend project. So React Chat Elements is a very good alternative. You just npm install it, right? React Chat Elements. And now let's think, so React Chat Elements gives us the view, it gives us the UI, but let's think a little bit on how we save it. So again, we'll use Firebase to save the chat messages. Why? Because it's classical use for Firebase. It's update, it's synchronized between in real time between all the clients. It's like basically chat. So let's use Firebase. Again, we need to have like some sort of a mental model, some sort of schema. So we put in our schema chat, which is just a bunch of messages. It's just like an object of messages, and every message has the content, the timestamp. We saw that we can synchronize timestamps, and the poster, which is who is the person that is currently posting this in the chat. So it looks like that. You can see that the messages are an array of message. Every message gets its own ID. This is like an ID that Firebase gives it, so you can refer it. But this is how it looks in the Firebase itself, in the Firebase console. And it's super easy, because once you have this, once you see it, it's very straightforward to take this data and just translate it into chat. Right, so we have this shape. You have the code here that again, it's like, I don't know, 24 lines of code. You use the React Chat Elements, and then you just the only thing that you need to make sure is how you map the chat data to the view and how you handle the send, right? So this is how you do use Firebase messages like we saw, and this is the UI itself, and this is how you handle the send. So once someone clicks send, you just get the content. You just take the current message, and you just push it to Firebase, and immediately it updates everywhere. Okay, so this is cool, right? We have the chat. Now let's talk about video. So you want to implement a video chat, which is nice. Everybody wants a video chat today. How do you do it? So you say, okay, I want a video chat. I want to do like a cool, like a chat between all my friends that are playing this game. So you start to read about WebRTC, and you start to see to think, okay, how do I do it? So I have a browser, I have the caller, I have an app. How do I do it? And you start to read about all the protocols that you need in order to build a video chat. And then eventually you say, okay, do you want to build a video chat? No, you kind of give up, right? Because no one wants to implement it. No one wants to implement it from scratch. But we have Agora to the rescue. Again, here you have a lot of alternatives. I chose to use Agora because it's the easiest to ramp up. It's the easiest to start with. And Agora, basically, it's a service or a bunch of services. They have a lot of services, video call, voice call, messaging, whatever you want. We'll use the video call. So again, it's really easy. You just install the Agora RTC SDK, the Agora SDK. And this is how you do it. So it's like 5 steps. First of all, you create your client. You create your video client. Just one line of code, create client. Then you join a channel, because everything works on channels. You have the channel. Let's say if you have like multiple games, so every game is a channel. So you just say your client, okay, I want to join the channel. And then you create your own stream. So when you're doing a video chat, you first create your own stream, which is not streamed anywhere. You just locally. Okay, so you use the Agora RTC create stream, and you have a stream ID. And then this stream is local. So you would see yourself in the camera. You would see yourself. You would see your video. No one else would see it because you didn't publish it. So the next thing you need to do is to publish the stream. So you have the client, which already connected to a channel, and then you publish the stream, your stream. You publish it, and once you publish it, everything that happens in the stream will be published to everyone who is listening on this channel. Okay. So again, I think we saw like 4 lines of code so far. The next thing you want to do, so you publish your stream, so you send your stream everywhere, but you can't see anyone yet because you need to listen to events. So your client, whenever a stream is added, so someone else is publishing a stream, you just subscribe to it, and then whenever you're subscribed, just play it. So you just take some sort of a div or container, and you say, okay, whenever I have like a remote stream, I just want to play it in this div, and that allows you to actually see the videos of all of your friends. Okay, so you can see that we can have like a component of players that just takes the player data from Firebase, and it has a local video component, local video that plays my video, my stream, and then I just map on all the players, and I create a participant component for every one of them with the user ID, and the user ID is what I'm using to listen to their stream. So maybe it's a little hard to see, but that's basically like 35 lines of code, and that's everything you need for a video chat. And it has everything that we just discussed. And I know that I said it's 5 lines of code, but you can see that due to nesting and promises and inits and everything, it's 35, but it's basically just 5 steps, right? So you create the client, like we said, you hang the events, what I'm doing when a stream is added, what I'm doing when the stream is subscribed. You might want to hang an event, what happens when the stream is removed. So when someone finishes their video stream, what I want to do with it. And then I just join the channel, I get the user ID, I create the stream, and then I publish it. Again, the same like we saw. It's super, super, super easy. And then I just take this and I just init in a use effect in my player component. I just init Agora, and that's it. You see that everything I do is just I init it, I hang the events, I join the game, or I join the channel, for example, and then I just have video chat. Okay. So Agora again provides a lot of API methods. You can mute, you can turn off video, you can mute someone else. It's really easy. So muting is just, it's super easy. You just take your local stream and you mute or unmute with a method. Again, it's super easy. And then you can just put 2 icons or 1 icon of speaker. And whenever you click on it, you just toggle your audio true or false, and basically you're just muting yourself or unmuting yourself. So it's just that easy to add a video API. And now Agora has a new API now, which, as you can see, is much shorter. It does basically the same thing. You're joining a client, you're publishing your stream, but it's promise-based, so you can use async await for that, and you can use the different video camera tracks and microphone tracks. So it's really cool. And so check it out. Okay, that's nice. So now we have our video chat. The next thing we want to do is play with everyone, because we just built it and it's just locally. I mean, you probably spent like a day on that, and now it's locally. It's working locally on your computer on localhost 3000. But okay, what do we do now? Again, you have a lot of alternatives here. I recommend Netlify. Netlify is a great place to deploy your app because it connects to GitHub. So whenever you're pushing something to GitHub, it triggers a build in Netlify, a build and deploy. So it's, again, super easy to set up. You just connect it to some sort of a repository, and you specify the build command. So you're saying whenever a repository is updated, I want to npm run build. And if you're in Create React App, if you used Create React App, it's just npm run build. The published directory is build, and that's it. And you can just forget about Netlify and just work on your code, push it to GitHub whenever it's ready, and your site will be updated. So that's cool. You can configure a lot of things here. For example, I configure redirects. So I'm basically saying in Netlify, every path that you don't recognize, just redirect to the root path, because I'm doing the routing myself. And now you have this netlify.app address, and you can share it. It's open, right? So that's really cool. So again, you just connect it to GitHub. You can have this nice badge to show you the situation of the build of Netlify, and you can add a lot more things. So you can add authentication. Firebase also provides you an authentication. It's really easy, as you can see, 2 lines of code, and then it gives you like this nice block of do you want to sign in with email, with Google, whatever you need. So this is authentication. You can add. This is how it looks like. So now you have like authentication. You have a user in your app. You can do multiple games, so you don't have to limit it to Splendor. You can do Splendor and Catan and Explorer, and you can do multiple sessions of the same game. The only thing that you need to change is that instead of working with the game data in Firebase, right? So I have like the game data. You need to divide it into separate games, right? So instead of doing one game data, you have to have another level in the hierarchy of which game it is. And thankfully, since we're using the helper function of update value and on value, we can just, instead of taking the root reference to the Firebase, we can just take the reference. Our root is now the game that we're using. So our entire app is operating the same way, is calling the same functions. It doesn't matter that we change the hierarchy in Firebase. Just in our on value and change value, we need to get the reference to the specific game. Yeah, so we started with this Excalibur, and we used React to build all of it. We use CSS Grid. We use Firebase to sync everything. We use Firebase and React chat components to build the chat. We use Agora to build the video chat. We can use, I use Mobix to sync Firebase state and local state, which I also recommend. It's really super easy. We use Netlify to deploy it. And now we have a working game and we have a working project. So it's super cool. We use Firebase authentication if we want. So I think the main takeaway from this is, if you have an idea, just do it. You have a plethora of tools. You have some very mature tools that would, I don't know, 5 years ago, you couldn't have done it. You didn't have those tools, but now they take database and synchronize and video chat. They take everything out of your head, out of your mind, and you can just use them with few lines of code. So you can spend 2 days in a weekend and build whatever you imagine. I can say that I have built some sort of like an online game, and it went so popular that I'm working with a gaming I don't know, a couple of gaming group to do online games right now, and it all started in a weekend project. So a nice tweet that I saw a few days ago is share your work before you feel ready, forget perfectionism, and just launch your side project. It's an amazing takeaway and an amazing message, I think. So just build it, use whatever you feel comfortable to use, but I recommend Firebase, but whatever you feel comfortable to use, put it on Netlify, send it to people, play against each other, or just ask for advice and ideas. And yeah, just do it. I think that's the main takeaway. Just remember, everyone is awesome, and like this, like a quarantine high five. And that's it. If you have any questions, you can either ping me directly at Twitter or now in the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
That was really awesome, Liad. And yes, just 3 minutes left, and you are done with your speak. So really appreciate like the way you have managed the time, and yeah, I would really appreciate the way you have presented. And yes, there are a lot of takeaway I could see from your speak. So I thought of asking question, but I will keep all this question to myself till Q&A, because if I'll ask, then nothing would be left for Q&A session. So that would be brought during Q&A, and even I'll wait for the viewers and the audience to put more questions so that I can take all of them in a consolidated way, and then we'll put together so that you will be answering and helping others. So yeah, thank you, Liat, for this, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Thank you.